Donald Trump releases the JFK and Dr. Martin Luther King files. Man, Donald Trump he's doing everything that he promised that he was going to do, and I think this guy has people's heads spinning. It's got the Democrats in shambles. They don't know what to do. They're upset every day now. Now we got this. I want to take a weekend and actually look through these files and do the deep dive on them. But let's take a look, man. Donald Trump releasing the JFK and Dr. Martin Luther King files.
President Trump has ordered the release of thousands of classified government documents about the 1963 assassination of President John F. Kennedy, which has fueled conspiracy theories for decades. We also know that he said he wants to declassify the remaining federal records relating to the assassinations of Senator Robert F. Kennedy and Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. The order is among a flurry of executive orders that Trump has quickly taken the first week of his second term. I want to discuss the situation as a whole and what happens next. So let's bring in Larry Sabato, director of University of Virginia Center for Politics and author of the Kennedy Half Century. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us today.
Certainly, Josh.
And it's Sabato. Sorry about that. What is the significance? What is the significance of this release overall?
Well, this is important because for decades we've been trying to get in to see these documents. And they've gradually been released, and in fact, millions of pages have been released over the years. This is a result of the JFK Records Act of 1992, which President George H.W. Bush signed in October of 92. But even then, the papers were supposed to be turned over by the CIA and the FBI and a lot of other alphabet groups. And there was an assassination documents review board set up under a federal judge. That took another 10 plus years, and everything was supposed to be released in 2017 during President Trump's first term. Well, there's a provision in that act that says if the CIA and the FBI and others believe that the release of this document and that document and the other document would be damaging to the nation's national security and so on, then they're allowed to advise the president not to do it. It's still up to the president. That has resulted in about 3,000 documents in whole or in part not being released. Well, this is no surprise. Some of those documents are probably among the most sensitive. I say probably because you can't know what's in there until you see them. So this has been a long road. It's 61 plus years since JFK was assassinated, and RFK and MLK were assassinated in 1968. Ever since the Warren Commission came out in 1964, there have been questions about how accurate it was, whether there were other shooters, whether there were conspiracies. I'm not sure there were, but I also know we can't know what we don't know. And we're not going to know everything until we see these documents. And probably the documents that through the years have been destroyed. They were allowed to get rid of documents really between 1963 and 1992. What do you think if there were any incriminating documents? They might have been lost or they're not able to be retrieved. I don't want to be too cynical, but that's my guess.
And, it's interesting that he says that because I've been asking this myself. Okay, if these are very sensitive government documents that basically, I mean, it would definitely what I'm seeing so far, it would definitely implicate the United States government in the murder of its president, JFK. So why would you put the confession basically into these documents, man? I mean, they're heavily redacted anyway. And then why in the world? I'm trying to think if there's information in there that clearly shows, hey, the United States government was in cahoots with whoever and killed an American president. Why would you put that in there? unless you wanted to make people think that this is what happened. Maybe something else happened. I mean, I don't know. I just have a lot of questions when it comes to that. I think it's crazy that the potential that the U.S. government was involved in the murder of its own president. To me, that's wild to think about. And people are still fascinated by JFK's assassination, Dr. Martin Luther King's assassination. You know, I've read a few things where they've had some really interesting things to say about Dr. Martin Luther King, and they were not flattering. And it makes me wonder, are these things that they put in here true about him, or is this something that they put in here to defame him? Later on down the line in history, these sensitive documents are going to be shown to the masses. We'll go ahead and make it look like he was not a good person. I don't know, man. There's a lot of things redacted, like the man said. There could have been a lot of things that were thrown out, a lot of things that's incriminating that was thrown out. I don't know why you would put incriminating information in there. You know, like if I was the gentleman that was in charge, I'm going to go ahead and type in these documents incriminating myself. No, I don't think so. So who knows, man? I mean, who knows? There's so many questions. Even after you read these documents, which, like I said, I'm gonna take a weekend to go through, there's still going to be more questions. Why is it all redacted? So much of it is redacted. And what is missing here? What information did they throw out? And the stuff that I can read, is it true? It's crazy, crazy world, man, we live in.
I have to ask here about the opposition overall. I mean, you touched on this, but what is the opposition to releasing these documents? As you mentioned, several of them, many of them have been released over time, but what is the opposition to releasing these documents altogether?
What I have been told over the years, and again, I have no way to verify this because I can't see the documents, but I've been told that potentially people who are mentioned in these documents could be subject to retaliation in some form or another. Say if there were spies that we had inside Cuba, for example, that releasing their names could result in damaging actions against even their descendants. Obviously, in those cases, you want those people protected. But I also need to note, it's been a long time. You know, I was 11 when JFK was assassinated. I'm in my 70s. Most of the people who are mentioned, probably the vast majority, not only are dead, they're long dead. So you're not going to be able to follow up on a lot of this, but also I think fewer people than ever would be at any threat at all. And when are we going to learn everything about it? Are we going to wait? As one key person told me when I was researching the Kennedy half century, he said, if you're going to bet on a year when we'll get everything, I would bet on 2063, the 100th anniversary of the assassination. Well, that's great. I'll be dead. I'm sure you'll still be living. I hope you'll come to my gravesite and yell loudly so I'll hear what's actually in there.
And my last question for you, do you think that this is going to lead to any more document releases in the future? Is there any?
It's interesting, man. I'm intrigued. I definitely want to read the documents once they're released. I think they already are released. I'm not 100% sure, but I've seen some things floating around on X, Twitter. I don't know if they're legitimate or not, but once again, once I know that the actual documents are released, I would like to take a weekend to actually go through them, man. I find it interesting, very interesting.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society, and we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret...
Forced to be a sort of policeman of the whole world. God has a way of standing before the nations with judgment, and it seems that I can hear God saying to America, you are too arrogant. If you don't change your ways, I will rise up and break the back backbone of your power, and I'll place it in the hands of a nation that doesn't even know my name. Be still and know that I'm God. The promises of the Great Society have been shot down on the battlefield of Vietnam, making the poor, white and Negro, bear the heaviest burdens both at the front and at home. Though the civil rights leaders, for various reasons, refuse or can't take a stand or have to go along with the administration, that's their business. But I'm afraid of that.